I've got a theory. There are 3 possible levels for any work of fiction to exist on, and I have very cleverly titled this the 3 levels theory. Yeah, hold your applause. Now, knowing about and recognizing these 3 levels will help you be better able to appreciate the books you read and the movies you watch, or whatever other art you consume. Plus, if you've ever thought about making something of your own, it'll help you better define what you're trying to put out there. So, what is the 3 levels theory? Well, I'll tell you right after you preemptively like and subscribe. No, okay, here is the simplified version. Level 1, this is the surface level, the story itself, the plot, the events happening on screen or on the page. So if levels 2 and 3 are often going to end up being about the subtext, then level 1 is the text. My favorite example maybe of a level 1 story is Pacific Rim. Or you could go, Rampage or any number of Fast and Furious movies, that sort of thing. More on that in just a bit. Level 2, this is the socio-political level. Politics, culture, society. The big questions about how people interact with other people on a large scale. Think South Park or Animal Farm. Yeah, same level, actually, believe it or not. Now, level 2 seems to be the toughest one of the 3 to pull off. More on that in a bit. And level 3, this is the personal and interpersonal level. This is all about how we interact with our family, our close friends, and most importantly, ourselves. For an example of this, think of something like The Shawshank Redemption, or Blade Runner, or Brokeback Mountain. Now, if I'm being honest, I call these levels, but if I could think of something better, I would use it, because the problem here is that levels implies a hierarchy, and that's not quite right. We might be tempted to say that level 3 is more important than the others because it tells us something about ourselves. Fair enough, but you can't have a level 3 story without building it on a level 1 foundation, because if there's no story, then your level 3 is just a philosophy textbook. Perfectly valid, but not a story. So maybe level 1 is the most important? Again, tough to say. I'll leave that to you to argue about in the comments after we're done. And speaking of which, like I said, if you have a better name for all of this, then by all means, go hit those comments, seriously. But back to my original question, who cares? Why does this matter? Well, like I said, knowing about these levels will make you a more canny consumer, or maybe even a producer of art. And when I say that, I don't just mean that you'll be more critical and less able to enjoy stuff. We'll leave that to the cynics. Sometimes it'll be exactly the opposite. Like when somebody comes out of the movies and they didn't like it. They gave it a low score because, it was just a dumb action movie. Well, why were you there? Maybe you would have enjoyed it more if you realized that the filmmakers weren't trying to do anything other than give you a fun time at the theaters. Objection! I was just rewatching this and I realized it kind of comes across as me saying that this is some magical formula to be able to enjoy any book or movie. And that's not quite what I'm saying. Sometimes a movie just sucks, right? But I'm just saying a lot of times it's about that mismatch of expectations. Yeah, just wanted to make sure that was clear. So, end rant. Well, continue rant. Okay, take one of my favorite forgotten 90s movies, Only the Strong. It's about an army dude who's deployed in Brazil where he learns the amazing dance/martial art capoeira. He comes back to Miami, finds out the gangs have taken over, and he becomes a teacher and cleans up his old high school with his sweet new kicking skills. Think Stand and Deliver, but with lots more fight scenes. And that's actually key to understanding why it has an 8% score with the critics and a 77% audience score. The critics see it take a few dips into levels 2 and 3 with the social issues of the day and the personal growth of a few of the students, and they think, it didn't do very well at that. Maybe fair enough, but audiences, on the other hand, see a sweet martial arts movie with some sweet capoeira moves, and they think, you know what? I got what I came for. But frankly, it is potentially a mark against the filmmakers that disconnect exists at all. Take a more modern example, and another one of my favorites, Pacific Rim. This is as level 1 as they come. I mean, it's a story about robots punching monsters, and that's pretty much it. Anyway, the scores on that one are actually pretty similar across critics and audiences because it's quite conscious that it's not really about anything more than robots punching monsters. Man, I love that movie. Anyway, you'll notice something here across both of those examples and any number of others, which is that although they live on level 1, they do take little dips or detours into level 2 or 3. And that's because it's a rule of good writing that you do need some kind of emotional core to take your characters through whatever plot you have cooked up for them. So Charlie Hunnam's character has to learn about responsibility if he wants to avenge his brother or something, whatever happens. I mean, it's there, but really we're just skimming the surface of level 3, not diving in, right? Now, what would it look like for a story to really live on level 3? Well, it might look like any number of family gathering movies. My wife's favorite Christmas movie is The Family Stone. And what's the plot of The Family Stone? Well, a family gathers at Christmas time. That's pretty much it. But what is it about? It's about being honest about who you are and what you want and what it means to be part of a family. The plot, it exists, but it truly is incidental. And I'm sure you can think of a lot of stories like that one. Now, I mentioned earlier that level 2 is the toughest one to do, maybe. And why is that? Well, it's not because social and political topics are fundamentally tougher than personal ones. It's mostly because they're tougher to get across to audiences. In case you hadn't noticed, the world isn't exactly united these days, or any days really, on cultural and political issues. So often, when an author or a filmmaker tries to tackle these issues, it ends up feeling maybe kind of clumsy. But this means that when you do find something that takes on social and political issues really well, it's all the more valuable. South Park, I already mentioned, is one of my favorite examples of something that lives in level 2. Partly it's one of my favorite examples just because it's so darn much fun, but they do the level 2 stuff really well. But this is also why I was so impressed with the writing on one Marvel movie in particular, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. The writers brought up a salient political issue for you to chew on, but they talked around it obliquely enough that it simultaneously meant generally everything, and specifically kind of nothing. S.H.I.E.L.D. in this movie is presented as this massive, unaccountable, supranational organization with near unlimited powers. Viewers of one type of political identity, they might see S.H.I.E.L.D. as a stand-in for a muscular, aggressive, hegemonic United States. Others are going to see a United Nations with visions of an oppressive one-world government, or whatever. The genius of the writing in this case is that everyone left satisfied thinking they were the ones being pandered to. Pretty slick. But in the best examples, of course, it's not about pandering, but rather about exploring cultural and political issues in as universal a language as possible. Doing that is not only good for appealing to both sides of an issue, but also appealing throughout time as well. Many of the specific issues that plagued us yesterday look a little different today and will look very different tomorrow or in 20 years or 3 generations or whatever. But the principles will remain the same. So think about how relevant George Orwell has remained for over 70 years. And Animal Farm and 1984 aren't just books that dip into level 2, they live there. And they do so in a way that is universally thought-provoking. Seriously, a well-told level 2 story is just a thing of beauty, right? Okay, so again, we ask ourselves, so what? Well, again, this all goes back to either enjoying the stuff you consume more or having an even better grip on something that you are creating, something you're putting out there. Our responsibility as consumers, in this case, is to not expect art to be something it's not. And our responsibility as creators is to be clear or maybe intentional is the better word, about what it is that we're putting out there. Anyway, I'm really interested to hear about your favorite examples of stuff that falls into each of these 3 levels. And remember, something can hit all 3 levels, right? Many things often do, but most things are going to exist primarily on one of the 3. So go forth, hit the comments, let me know what you got, and also go ahead and tear this theory apart, poke some holes in it. Let's have a little dialogue because I'd love to workshop this a little bit with you. I'll see you in the comments. And by the way, if you've gotten this far, don't forget to like the video. Well, unless you hated it, I guess. If you hate watched it, then hit the dislike button. Either way, thank you very much for watching. And as always, thank you very, very much to the patrons. Make sure you're all subscribed for some really cool video content that we're going to have coming up very soon. So I'll see you next time.